Welcome everybody to day 2 of the Alternative Media Conference. Right now we have Christopher Wiersma, co-director and community engagement manager for Orca Media, with his roundtable titled Think Globally, Film Locally, Youth Media in Vermont. This roundtable will be about youth participation in local media, creative youth filmmaking, and engagement with local issues in our communities. It's a very exciting talk. I am very glad to be here, and I'll let you take it away, Christopher.
All right, thanks so much. Thanks, Tony. Thanks, Greg, and the Goddard College team for organizing this. So yeah, my name is Christopher Wiersma. I use he, him pronouns. I am one of the co-directors at Orca Media in Montpelier, which is the nonprofit community media center in Montpelier, Vermont. So what we were going to do is just kind of have a roundtable discussion about youth media and what's going on right now. We have a handful of folks joining us from around the state. And so, yeah, I think I have a handful of questions for everybody, but anyone can jump in at any time on the questions. But the first thing I wanted to do was just go around and just have everyone introduce themselves, where you're from, your organization, or school, and maybe any kind of connection you have to youth media in Vermont. So like I said, I'm Christopher Wiersma. I use he, him pronouns, co-director at Orca Media. And I also started the Vermont Youth Documentary Lab in the summer of 2021, and the Vermont Youth Documentary Lab has been mostly focused on documentary filmmaking for young people 15 to 19. And last summer we were able to pay 2 young people as youth media fellows, and one of them is here today. Taggart has joined us, and Taggart was my assistant, teaching assistant and youth media fellow this last summer. So thanks for joining us, Taggart. Rowan is also here from Orca Media, one of our young camera operators and a student at Central Vermont Career Center. Is that right? Cool. So maybe I'll start with Angeliki, and then if you want to just introduce yourself, and we'll go around. Like I said, thank you.
I'm feeling like the least useful of this panel, so I don't know what perspective that gives me. Though young at heart, I have been working in community media for the past decade at Mount Mansfield Community Television in my old stomping ground of Richmond, Jericho, and Underhill. And I guess what brings me here is one of the most rewarding parts of my job is running just a few weeks a year, and I'm knocked out cold, but running our TV camps and working over the years with various young people from age 12 through college who grew up really, really fast. But they always just bring a boat full of energy to whatever we're doing. And I'm just here mostly to listen, but thank you.
Rowan, would you like to volunteer to introduce yourself?
I am Rowan. I go to Central Vermont Career Center. I've been here for 3 years, or this will be the 3rd, and I work for Orca Media. Is there a question? I'm just introducing myself.
Just introducing yourself, that's fine. Yeah, that's great.
Rowan, I use he, him pronouns. I do film and design.
And you're
mixed media.
You're a student at the Central Vermont Career Center in digital media production, is that right?
Yeah, digital media arts too.
Great. Okay. Any other volunteers? Hi, Tracy.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
No, it's okay. We're just going around and introducing ourselves. I just kind of kicked it off, and maybe Taggart, you want to say something?
Yeah, sure. I'm Tiger Schrader. I go to 32 High School, and I worked with Chris over the summer with the documentary lab, and I also work at Orca Media with Rowan and Chris as a camera operator and post-production worker. And yeah, I'm here.
Thanks, Taggart. Travis, so Jordan, I haven't met you all. If you want to introduce yourself, that'd be great.
I'm Travis. I use he, him pronouns. I work at Town Meeting TV. I'm their internship coordinator. I largely work with high schoolers between 15 and 19 years old. And we do a lot of community focused media making with them. It's called like the neighborhood media internship. So like a lot of it's like going out and asking people questions and really staying true to like what has Burlington interested, but what also interests them, and what they want to know more about and what they want to see what other people know about. So I don't know, it's really awesome. And I don't know, I look forward to being a part of this.
Cool, thanks. Thanks, Travis. Jordan, Annie, hi.
Yeah, I can go. Hi, everyone. My name is Jordan. I use they, them pronouns. I am the community engagement producer at Junction Arts and Media, formerly known as CATV. It's a community access TV station for the Upper Valley. In my role as community engagement producer, it really means I do everything, but with a pretty big focus on media education, particularly with youth. So I programmed all of our media education programs that we are offering this year. I'm like in and out of schools all the time through various, like we'll apply for grants, like artist in residence grants, to have me go out and do week-long like film intensives with students, and it ranges. I've been in elementary schools and I've been in high schools just teaching film and media production. We recently just launched our like jam film club, which was nice. We decided to kind of make it a home base rather than kind of sending me out to like lots of different schools for like, you know, a very short amount of time, where sometimes the projects that the students wanted to do just like weren't feasible within the time frame. It's nice that we're able to now host a film club. It's every Wednesday where the kids can come and just make fun shit and kind of just gauge what they're interested in, try and teach a little bit when I can. But we're mostly just here trying to really engage the younger community. You know, we have a mission, you know, to service the entirety of our community, and that includes kids. And just like me very personally, I'm like very, I'm not from around here like natively, so I definitely feel for some of the youth who grow up in rural New Hampshire, Vermont. I don't know, sometimes I'm like, what do you do? You know, like when I was first in one of the schools, I asked the kids, I was like, so what do you guys do for fun? They were like, walk around. I was like, what? What? So it's very important to me that we can like provide programming that's fun and entertaining, and like hopefully can, for some, you know, for some students it then kind of like sparks an interest, like, oh, this is something that I can do as a career. This is something that I'm really interested in that I never would have thought about or like been exposed to. So it's just really nice to be able to do that for the community. Yeah.
That's awesome. Thanks, Jordan. And
Yeah.
and congratulations on that new space. It's super cool. Down in
Thank
White
you,
Rejection.
Yeah.
I love the storefront that you could just, yeah. Cool. So Annie.
Hi, I'm Annie. I'm a freshman at Lebanon High School, and this past summer I took a class at Junction Arts Media on youth filmmaking, and I was able to produce actually 2 videos that are now on YouTube. Yeah.
That's awesome. Very cool. Very cool. Hey, Tracy, want to introduce yourself?
Sure. I'm Tracy Witherspoon. I'm calling in from Twinfield School out in Plainfield, Vermont. And Christopher, I've been working together the past couple of years. I've asked him to come in and help me to learn how to make films so that I can help my students learn to make films. And specifically this year, I'm working with Christopher on a class called The Economics of Poverty and Wealth, where students are exploring two questions: why is there poverty and how is wealth generated? And our goal is to create documentary films that express their learning and hopefully have some sort of showcase where we rent the local theater in Montpelier and invite maybe even a guest panel and just really invite the community in to be a part of that conversation to see what the students explored. So it's really exciting. Hopefully it's the beginning of a really thriving media center here at Twinfield.
That's awesome. Thanks, Tracy. Am I missing anyone that's joined us? Cool. So I think my first question was, and feel free, anyone could jump in. I had some questions for like our organizations, but my first question is mostly for our youth media makers. I'm curious, what topics of importance do you feel, as media makers that you feel like we need to lift up, that you are interested in exploring? What topics or interests have you had in the work that you've already created or would like to see more of? And anyone volunteer to start? Annie, I might call on you. How are you?
Yeah, so actually during the class I took this past summer, I produced one of my videos was about climate change and global warming, and specifically migration to Vermont and New Hampshire for like families in California who are escaping wildfires, and that's, a byproduct of climate change and global warming. So just kind of, it was a video about how with the Vermont and New Hampshire state reps, and it was about how we are gonna have to deal with that in the future. So that's something I'm really interested in because it's something that's big for my lifetime. So yeah.
That's really great. And that's the videos that you mentioned that are up now on YouTube. Oh, sorry. So is the two videos that you mentioned that you did, so you did these previously over the summer, and those are the ones up online. And yes. Did you interview residents that have moved from California?
I did not. No, I have a friend. I have a few friends actually who recently moved, and I was on actually a travel soccer team with one of them, and yeah, they had escaped from wildfires. Their home was burned down. So yeah, it just kind of hit personally because I have such a good friend now who had to experience that, and she was telling me about how many families are now thinking about that and following them. Yeah.
That's awesome. There's a lot. That's a huge story, and that's definitely something that's also happening in central Vermont that we're seeing too. A lot of people moving from out west. Great, thank you. Thanks for sharing. How about Taggart, Rowan? What kind of topics have you guys been exploring in your work, or are you interested in exploring?
Hello. I feel like people feel like more alone right now than people have in a long time, and I don't know, work that can like touch somebody of any age, or maybe I feel like young people and older people are kind of clashing, and I feel like anything that can give a young person some perspective on older person's thinking or vice versa is really important right now, because we should all be a unit.
That's great. I really loved the project that you were acting in, right, Rowan? That for the Skills USA, it was like the concept was hugs were illegal. Yeah. And you guys were like giving each other hugs in back alleys of Montpelier.
It was called The Hug Dealer.
The Hug Dealer, right? Okay.
Yeah.
That was great.
Yeah. I didn't write that script, but that definitely speaks to me in that way.
Yeah, it was well done.
Thank you.
Taggart, do you want to?
Yeah. The two documentaries we did were really fun. One of them was about poverty in central Vermont, and then the other was about street art in Montpelier and how they affect the community and whatnot. I feel like for future endeavors, I would like to do something like LGBTQ related or kind of climate change related. But yeah. Oh.
Was the street art one a Freedom and Unity film?
It was, yeah.
Okay, yeah, that was great. Yeah.
Thanks. Oh yeah, that showed at the down at your space, and yeah. So Taggart was one of the filmmakers on that last summer. Yeah, Jordan, how about you or Travis? Like, what kind of topics are young people exploring? What are they, talking about their interest in or trying to? You said that there were some like big ideas that were hard to like rein into.
So yeah, we've done quite a few things. Most recently we went like living in Burlington, it's nice having Church Street because there's a lot of variety and opinion. So we went out and asked about Prop 2 and Prop 5 on this year's ballot, and they really wanted to do that. They also really want to tackle crime. They made a whole thing about Sears Lane at one point, and the houseless issue here in Burlington, where they interviewed like a lot of community members that impacted. And I'm forgetting. They do all sorts of things. They really wanted to ask people like how they go out and talk about Juneteenth events. They go talk to people about like, oh, why are you here at this event? It's like, I don't know. They're always so interested and so enthusiastic in all these awesome community things. And so like, that's why it's like really fun, like reining in like these really big ideas to a more specific topic that is usually the challenge rather than finding something to film.
And you work with Megan O'Rourke at Town Meeting TV, who I think I've learned a lot from over the years, and her kind of strategy of on the street interviews. I think that's a really great way to approach things. We did similar to the public art project and street art project that we did, where you just, especially in the summer and like there's tourists or people hanging out outside and you can just kind of walk up to them and be like, hey, do you want to be interviewed? That's a great approach.
Exactly. And it really helps like practice a lot of interviewing skills, not only for like my interns, but also for me too. Like I'm like, wow, like I would not expect that this person would give this answer, and you handled it way better than I would have. So it's really nice to have that like dynamic like workflow, because I feel like I'm more there to help them achieve what they want to accomplish more so than me just kind of wanting to make what I want to make.
That's great. And how about in White River Junction? What's going on there, Jordan?
Oh yeah, very much the same sentiment, I feel like, as Travis, as far as like just kind of being there as like someone to support and like, help set like the stage for their visions is a really, it's been a fun kind of like position for me to step into. I've really enjoyed it. But I don't know, a lot of similar themes. Definitely, we've had lots of projects like about climate change, and that's definitely a topic that I think, very for obvious reasons, why a lot of people, myself included, feel like very, I don't know, it's a very existential kind of dread that I think a lot of kids are using film, which is really cool as like a way to grapple with that and understand it, touch into it, and like explore that for themselves. We've had, oh man, one of our a scandal of sorts, kind of. I remember one of the first one of the first projects I did, like when I moved here and got this job, is I went into Hanover High for their like March intensive program. And the whole thing was like filmmaking for change was like the tagline. And we wanted the students to make films that they thought could like, you know, whatever that meant for them, filmmaking for change. But we just thought that we wanted to kind of give them that opportunity and kind of give a little bit of structure for like, as far as what, you know, where to take the projects. But we we had one that kind of ended up being really like a commentary on like burnout and like the like social pressures that like high schoolers are facing. Particularly, I feel like high schoolers in that area of like, I don't know, like academic success and like pressure and like unhealthy relationships with like parents and grades and those kind of things. And I don't know, they took some definite like creative liberties with that, but you could tell that that was kind of like what the message they were trying to get across was. And long story short, we like had to take it, we're like not allowed to have it on our YouTube channel. It was like a whole scandal. And I think, I mean, I don't know, we still don't know why like the school asked us to take it down, but like we have a feeling it's because the kids were like making like a legitimate social critique about their like experience at this school, and the school did not like it, which was, I don't know, it felt, you know, not that we're out here trying to like instigate things, but I don't know, it was like an instant of like really seeing how like film and media can be like a powerful tool to like express yourself and like actually make change in some ways, you know, that it made an impression, you know, on people. And I like, you know, I feel like for the director, who was like kind of really helming that film, I'm like, you know, that's your first like banned film, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of, it's kind of spicy of you. I love it.
Yeah. So what's the status of that video now?
You know, it's like we had it up on our YouTube channel, and then we had to like private it. And we've like followed up several times with the school trying to like have a meeting so that we can talk about like what happened here. Cause like personally, I'm like, I don't feel like that's fair to the filmmaker who, you know, she put a lot into this film and spent a lot of time, and it sucks that, you know, she can't use it and like take it places. And like it's tricky with like who owns that footage, because, you know, it was a program through a high school. So it was a lot. We've tried to like follow up on it, have not had any response, or like not any like substantive one. So
wow, that's huge. Angelica, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I can't resist but respond to that, because I think a lot of us at these little media centers where we have like a fraction of the budgets of our school districts, and I'm a previous school board member, not on it anymore, thank goodness. But like we're always doing this dance where like they need something streamed, especially during the pandemic. We do it with our resources and we do whatever. We hire students, we pay the students. But when it comes to touchy subjects or important civic issues, like we've tried to set things up to have, like, we're kind of shut out a lot of times. Like we can't even be there or have kids film their own things. And that's kind of a civic lesson. And that is one of my goals, to do a little more around the, you know, giving students the opportunity to tell their own stories on their terms, and not just fit into the narrative that is predominant at the time. And at their age, maybe it's usually a school, which gives the structure for how things are supposed to be said and done, and which stories we want to hear and which ones we don't. So anyway, sorry, I couldn't resist to jump in at that.
Yeah, my thought is as well as I would reach out to the ACLU actually, just to see what they would say, like who does have ownership and whose rights are being supported and who are being infringed.
Right. And I think that's one of the things we can do, like as community media centers in the state, is kind of like make sure that, you know, nobody is being, you know, nobody's content is being repressed or like, you know, or quieted or at all. So that's really great. And that kind of leads me to my next question. I think, you know, this is kind of for everybody, but also, you know, maybe more geared towards our youth media makers. Do you feel, you know, that young people are well represented, whether in your local community or in local media? You know, I don't know how much you all kind of tune into like 7 Days or VPR, Vermont Public. You know, when we think about local media, when you think about your community, whether it's your school or your town, do you feel well represented?
I'm sorry, I like tuned into something someone else was saying at the beginning of that. I caught the rest of it, but like, I'm sorry. Do you want to?
No, it's okay.
That real quick?
Yeah, so I'm just wondering if you feel, that youth are well represented in your local communities, or you personally, but like young people in general, are, their voices are being represented in communities in Vermont or in Vermont local media, which are kind of two different things, but related.
I think that we, like, in theory, there's a lot of opportunities for young people in the state to speak and share their voice and share their opinions. But of course, when it comes down to like state government and whatnot, like, it's kind of always been the way it is. Probably for as long as government has existed, there's not going to be like a 16-year-old on the stand, like pitching ideas. I don't think that would be so bad at all. I think honestly that might help things. But do I feel represented? I probably could try harder to feel represented, but my instant answer is no. Like, just because that's how I feel. But I think there's opportunities out there. I think they could be a little easier maybe for certain people in more rural areas and whatnot to access. But I'm not, I haven't looked into it that much, so I can't really say there are opportunities.
That's great. Thanks, Ron. Thanks for sharing.
I can't hear you, Chris.
Oh, thank you. Anyone else?
Yeah, I think with JAM, actually, Junction Media Arts in White River, I feel like that has really helped me become more represented or like opened up opportunities for me to kind of share my ideas. And it was just this past summer, and I feel like I didn't really know just how heard I could get, and how by making these films I could actually make a difference in the community until now. But yeah, and especially now that I'm entering high school, and yeah, there's multiple different classes I can take here at Lebanon on filmmaking, and yeah, so I think as I'm getting older, definitely I'm seeing more opportunities and feeling more represented. But as a middle schooler, I would say I wasn't in tune to any of that at all.
That's great. Thank you, Annie. Taggart, you want to say anything? Or Jordan, Travis, what about your perspective working with young people? Do they have, Tracy, Angelica, please, if you have any, things to say as well.
Yeah. One thing is that my school at U32, we've recently, the students have recently set up a new student council with more opportunity for students to speak out about things and like let the administration know how students feel, because in the past we have not had that strong of a voice in how we learn things and how the school works in general. So yeah, we've had recent changes to make student voices louder and more heard in our school.
I can respond also. First off, Annie, tears to my eyes. Thank you. It feels very like we're what's the word? We're like fulfilling our like role and our mission in the community. And it feels good to know that that's, like reciprocal and like being felt, and that like the things that we're doing are actually like having like an impact. But I think as far as like, yeah, like I love like being able to like make what, like let kind of students, when I'm working with them, take the reins, make whatever they want to create, and then like instantly having a platform where I'm like, I can put this on our YouTube, I can put this on our local, our channel, and like, just it's a small thing, but to like I think honestly, more than anything though, as far as like wanting to make sure that the like younger people are feeling represented in their community, I think just something that we've been thinking a lot about in our organization is like really what like our relationship with media is and like what it can do, and like a huge part of that being like our whole thing is like we use media as like an excuse to come together, kind of like what Rowan was saying. Like I think people are like, you know, striving for connection and like have had like, you know, a dramatically and like kind of unanimous like instant different relationship with technology, with media, because like for a while that was like our only way to communicate with each other. Things are weird. So we've been thinking a lot about that and like our like role as a media organization in the community, and like how can we actually really be like making people's lives better? Like what do they need right now? Is like what they need just like more like media just shot at them? So we try and like that's kind of what our whole like rebrand has been. We try and like use media making as just like an excuse to bring community together and like, you know, let people make connections. So like one of the things that I really enjoy about being able to lead like whether it's like a camp or our club, whatever, with kids is like just knowing that for like the amount of time that I have with them, like that I can have them in like a space where I hope that I can make them feel like safe and like in you know, in their space and whatever that means, and like they are a part of some kind of community. Like I distinctly remember we were like one unit in like a huge like camp, and like the students like cycled through a bunch of different camps throughout the day. And it like dawned on us that we like, it was me and my coworker were like doing ours, and like every day we'd have like these meetings at the end with all of like the people running it to like discuss the students or whatever. And it occurred to us that we were the only people that were asking our kids like what their pronouns were. And like we like discovered like there were several like students who had been either being dead named or misgendered, like for pretty much not only the camp but like just throughout their entire like school career, because no one had ever asked them. And like when we brought it up to the faculty, they were like, you know, I don't know, I would have never thought to like have done that. And I'm like, okay, but like, you know, like it is not a conducive like environment for children to learn, you know, if like at the very least like they're not being respected, they're not feeling like they are like, you know, a part of the community. So for me, just like knowing that I don't know, I can do something personally to like make that space and like, I don't know, be that for some of these students, even if it is like for a certain amount of time. I don't know, to me that's like kind of the community and like where I hope they're feeling. I don't know if any of that made sense. It was a very
No, it
stream of
does.
conscious thought.
That's all. I mean, that's so good to hear. Like, and thank you for sharing. I mean, that's, I think that's huge. It's just like, you know, how media fits into like other art and expressive modes. It's like, you know, you're asking, especially working with young people, them to be vulnerable and to like, to share like personal stories or like how they really feel about the world and the issues around them. And it's like, so you're, you know, as adults in the room, it's like the one role that you have is to like create trust and safe spaces. And it's like, that is first and foremost. And it's like, that's the only way people are going to feel like they can express their like opinions about anything, you know? And I think I love hearing that's like part of that rebrand with Jam. I think that's working really well. It's like, yeah, you're right. It media making is what brings young people together, you know, or anybody, communities together, around media, not necessarily just like creating more and more content, because there's plenty of content, you know.
Too much.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah, what's going on at like on Gillicky at your community media center, or Tracy at your school?
Well, I was just thinking back to what Jordan said early on about like the poor kids in Vermont. What do they do for fun? And I think, yeah, I mean, that building that community on a film set or TV set is like super fun. And there's this chemistry like that I just feel like young people really need. Like I know personally in high school, I couldn't have survived it without being here in rural Vermont in theater. And I think that maybe that's not given as much prominence as it should be. I mean, it's like really important to your psychological and human well-being, just to be building something with people. And also kids, especially like we work with a lot of middle schoolers, they're all bubbling, they're all talking at the same time, and just learning that respect to sometimes be really quiet, which you have to be when you're filming. That's like the number one thing. I just always find that impressive when, I keep saying, okay, everybody quiet. I mean, really quiet. Hey, stop talking, stop swiveling in your chair, and then when it finally sinks in and they're working together, it just like goosebumps.
Yeah, I can piggyback onto that. First of all, I was a middle school teacher for 14 years, so I can appreciate exactly what you're describing. First of all, I'm taking some notes because I'm actually putting in a grant application to get some money, hopefully, to really develop our media center here. So I'm loving everything that I'm hearing from these youth media creators. One of my goals, sort of piggybacking on the things you're talking about, like representation and student voice and challenging systems of power, is that we so often as educators say, you can express your learning any way you want. And we give students like this menu of options, right? But then they've never made a film and they've never made a podcast. So they make Google Slides and they write papers, right? Like consistently. So I really, really am excited to actually give students, as many students as possible, the opportunity to try other ways to demonstrate their learning, because that's where authentic learning will really happen. And hopefully that's where a different level of engagement will be provided, and school might have a different meaning than I'm just here passing time. It's one of my goals.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear. I think that one of the things I've been consulting with like Montpelier High School on is what like multimedia journalism is, and this idea that like has been around for a long time, that it's like you could enter a story or a local issue in multiple ways, right? Like it doesn't always have to be like an academic paper, right? And some people also express and digest information differently. You might want to make a podcast, you might want to do an interview, or make a video to really like learn and teach others. So that's huge. Yeah, that's great to hear. I think that kind of also leads to my next question, which is like more technical. And I'm wondering, what kind of like production equipment or materials are, and maybe our schools and community media center folks can speak to this. It's like, what are people gravitating towards? Maybe Rowan, you could weigh into, what do you think, that you're gravitating towards, or you're seeing people that, are using and like using? For example, we use these cinema cameras, right? And maybe Jordan and Travis have seen these, the C100s, the Canon C100s, which have like, interchangeable lenses. They're kind of like DSLR cameras. And I think for a lot of young people that are using those for the first time, you can be really creative with those because you can make some creative choices with your focus, and you're using your lenses, your hands on the lens. And it's like, so things like that. Yeah. If anyone wants to weigh in production equipment, if that makes sense.
I'll say we do not have cinema cameras. That sounds real fancy. And I'm jealous. But I don't know. Well, I would be curious to know, I would be curious to know what the youth actually want and would want to need, because we're at a point, like we have a rotating like community equipment closet that we rent out equipment for, and we have like really across, we have equipment starting at like really, really basic point and shoot camcorders too. We did just recently, we got a Blackmagic camera, but that's I think more for like staff use than anything, but like just to kind of like, because we want to be able to like serve the community and also like meet them where they are, and like recognizing that, not everybody necessarily wants or like needs a really expensive camera to tell their story. Sometimes some of the worst movies I've ever seen have been shot on the most beautiful cameras, and then you're like, oh, they look gorgeous, but it's awful. And like some of the best like media I've seen honestly have been like TikToks, you know what I mean? So
right. Or shot on iPhones. Yeah.
So we have all kinds of stuff, but I don't know. I would be curious to know like what is ideal, because we do, we have money in our budget to get new equipment, as through like our fundraising grant that we got recently. So if there's something that you really want, let me know. Maybe we could make it happen at Junction Arts and Media. So sound off in the comments.
What was I thinking? I totally agree with the idea that like really expensive equipment can totally be like an absolutely sick tool for like an artist with experience, but honestly, sometimes you need it needs to be a little janky sometimes, and that's like people love old cameras because the newer things get, it's like everything starts to look the same because we hit a really good, we got really good cameras now. We have reds here. We have a bunch of red cameras here at the Central Vermont Career Center, and I don't want Carlos to hear me, but I don't like using them. I don't like it. It's not it's not as fun as something that I can I don't know.
Weren't you trying to use the Super 8mm? You and your friends were interested in film, right?
Yeah. It's also just probably every generation's need to not. It's like I don't want to use these cameras that were made while I was alive. That's stupid. But
I hear that.
I think the tools are a very, very small fraction of the art in the media world. Whereas obviously you need a computer, maybe you need whatever you call that thing that broadcasts all the channels, but and that stuff is expensive. But at the end of the day, I think to tell a good story and to make good art in general, all you need is the drive to do it.
That's great.
On that note, Rowan, I have a friend who's a filmmaker in Montreal who years ago made a great film using a 1970s. It was some kind of kids camera, it had a single handle on it, and she loved it. It was super grainy. It had a very interesting effect. So I like that, what you added.
Yeah, and I was just gonna say, I personally don't have any knowledge with fancy cameras or anything like that. And I think maybe it can make me seem more professional if I have nice equipment. But actually at the Jam Camp, we had a talk with Maggie Cassidy from Vermont Digger, and she was telling us about, for interviews, it's actually almost less intimidating and to just have a notepad, and just so it's more about the raw material and the actual connections you're making with people that I think are more important than the what you're filming. But yeah, I don't know.
That's great. No, that's really great to hear. How about Taggart? What's do you have anything on equipment that you want to weigh in on?
I mean, I've just used what Chris was talking about, the C100, C200, and DSLR. But I really enjoyed this summer getting to use the film camera that you had. That was really fun, just filming some behind the scenes shots on that, and just walking around with an old camera.
Oh, right. Yeah, I should have said that. So although we had the two cinema cameras, I bought a $3 Super 8mm camera from an East Montpelier storage unit, and I looked up on YouTube how to clean it out with vinegar, and it got it working more or less. When we developed the film, we sent it to a place called Negative Land in just outside New York City, and so they were able to just quickly develop it and get a digital copy of it. But it was funny, there was so much dust still in the film cage that it looks like little hairs kind of all over, and you can see it in the video project Taggart was mentioning earlier about poverty in Vermont. And yeah, so There's some super 8mm in that one. Cool.
I will say
Well,
that,
yeah.
I'm sorry, Christopher, our college student from the summer, when I was asking her, what should we buy next? What do people want? And the first thing that she mentioned was LED lighting that's portable. So that's on my list, my shopping list, but I don't know specific ones. So I have to do research.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the thing that is worth spending money on, and maybe we can kind of like mention that too, is that having good audio equipment. I think that's what's so cool about visual arts is like we're willing and almost like enjoy the abstraction more with the variety of like, you think about like film cameras we're talking about, but when I was in school in Chicago in the early 2000s, we would use the VHS cameras from the 90s because we thought that looked cool, right? Then, even though they had like the nice DV cameras available at that point. So it was like kind of this nostalgia, but I think the importance was always just having good audio. So it doesn't really matter like what the visual looks like. And I think it is important to have something that's approachable. Jordan, like if you guys were going to buy any cinema cameras, and like Rowan was saying too, I also don't really like the red and those kind of cameras. And I think that the C100 is kind of a nice middle ground because it's 10 years old at this point, right? But it's these cameras that have these, you could put any lens on it. All of the buttons are on the outside of the camera. You don't have to go into the menu, things like that. I gravitate towards that. Easy, simple things to use that look good too. Yeah, so I think kind of my final question was like, what are our ideas for better lifting up youth media programs? Like, how do we see youth media growing in Vermont? And maybe this is just like your perspective from your communities too. Like, what is it? Creating new programs? Is it partnering with local schools? Is it replicating programs? Yeah. Are there programs that are successful too that you want to, that we just need more people involved too? I think that that's one of the things that I'll just speak for myself in Montpelier is that, we've had some success with the Vermont Youth Documentary Lab, but it's also difficult to kind of just have one or two people involved, and it's nice to be able to like pay young people to help, right? So I think that's huge for me, is I'd like to see more money available to pay young people to take classes, to pay people in the summer, because that's something I've learned over the last 2 years too, is that, even if you have a free program, young people still need jobs, especially if you're trying to reach across every community. You want to make sure that there's some opportunity for people to get a paid stipend or an hourly wage to take your program to help out.
I think we have great, at least in Montpelier, as far as like the bus from Montpelier. This is the question, right? Like programs that are helping and where I see it going. The Montpelier High School has a bus that takes me to Barry in the morning. That's kind of crazy. I love that. It's just I don't know. This school is an awesome resource, but I think that the rise, and I know like technical education has been existent for a long time, but the rise of, I don't know, like the generation of people that's like a little in between, like what am I trying to say? COVID made the tech go crazy. We're all on our phones. I would argue more personally. I think the people I know are on their devices more, and I think that that's going to be really useful in a couple of years. And we're going to have a thriving media community, perhaps, where people who never thought they would want to make film or write stories will try it, because there's going to be a lot more people in the field, I think. soon. And also, sorry, this program is like people are always talking about how it's like competitive, like a lot of people apply and a lot of people don't get in. And I think that's a huge issue. I think that it's just not fair. Like, it's just not fair. It's such a powerful resource. I would trade my place with someone instantly. Like, I feel like I've gotten so much out of it already that I don't know. I think we need bigger, more money. That's all.
That's great. Thank you, Rowan.
Yeah, I feel like partnerships with schools and just schools in general, having film programs and media programs would help a lot with people getting into it. Just to have like a class there for people to sign up will have drawn attention itself. Like, I get to like go through the list of classes every year and like choose what I want to do. But if like there was a film thing on there, that would like catch my eye or something, because you get to look through this list of like 20, 30 classes that you can go through, and just having it on the list would help. And then just like partnerships with media and schools would be really nice. I feel like just to get film out there and like people who are interested in film into film.
Thanks, Taggart. Travis, Annie, Jordan, what do you guys think? What would you like to see more of?
Well, I know that at LHS we do have a really small film class, and it always fills up. Like, that's the fastest class. It's like the hardest to get into, and kids always really enjoy it. But since it's such a small class and there's usually only one a year, I think people, will forget about it and like not be able to, they just won't have the opportunity to get in. So definitely having media like companies or organizations coming into this school and talking about it, I think would help a lot, because I think kids just don't know about it at all, and they don't know how to share their ideas through film and get on a platform. So I think that'd be important to have partnerships with schools.
Thanks, Annie.
Yeah, I can kind of piggyback off that. Oh, I feel like I'm in college again. But I agree. I think one of our biggest problems, or that we've been struggling with, is like, like we have a pretty robust set of like programming of offerings for students as of right now, and sometimes we struggle like just getting the word out and like letting people know that these things are happening. And that's kind of, I don't know, and I think the schools that we have, like we have a solid partnership, I think, with LHS. It's usually like us like finding like that one teacher in a school that like will really champion, like media and the arts for their students, and like are usually kind of our pinpoint in connection. So like we have a teacher at LHS who, always has a group that sends us a Halloween-a-thon movie, which is fun. By the way, Halloween-a-thon coming up. If you guys have spooky movies you want to do, please submit them. We'd love to have them. But yeah, so and we have like through the couple of schools that I've been to and done programs, like I've slowly been kind of like building up kind of, a set of people that like when we have these programs I can reach out to and know that they're going to like pass it along to students. But like, if it's not like me who has like personally made that connection, or my boss who honestly fortunately knows everyone in this town. But outside of that, we struggle like being able to get the word out and being able to just like let students know in like places that we don't get to often, or in communities that we just like don't really have the bandwidth to reach with a full-time staff of 3 people. So I think, I don't know, making some kind of, alliance, or some kind of Rolodex of like, who are these teachers, who are these people in these schools, and or like, librarians too. Youth librarians are a super awesome resource, but like finding some way to like connect all of those people together so that we can kind of like, I don't know. I recently discovered the listserv. I don't know if that's like a thing, but like the Upper Valley listserv is just like a crazy like concept to me. I don't know. I've never lived in a small town before, but but like if we could have like something like that, like a listserv or like, you know, a group of people who are like just there to spread information and like make sure that like the students who need this or like have interest in this, or maybe, you know, just need to like be exposed to it for that first time, can have the opportunity and know about, you know, all the cool programming that, you know, all of these different organizations are doing. So
I love that. I think that there could be like a Vermont Youth Media Alliance, like definitely if it's just like a place to just get people, you know, just so you know, like students and teachers and media centers and, you know, even local media journalists and things like that to all get in one place every once in a while, or to be on a listserv, something like that. How about Travis, what about Town Meeting TV, Tracy at Plainfield? Do you guys have ideas of things you want to see more of?
Yeah, so actually pretty much similar to Jordan, like they kind of hit it on the point, like right on the head, is like, it is hard to kind of like find people who would want to do it. And like, I mean, maybe it's not like a thing with timing or with them personally or something. However, like we just kind of have like one or two students and we're like, okay, go tell your friends, see who's interested, have them sign up, and then hope it just kind of keeps getting bigger, which is working. However, like I do want to also extend this resource out to a broader variety of people as well. It is still like a new program and like, but like also a lot of people like we like having a broader reach of people who are interested will also allow us to kind of like have multiple sets of people and be able to actually serve more people and arrange groups that are more similar or work better or even different than one another in order to have us all succeed. That's it.
My thoughts, building on both what Jordan and Travis said as well, is that so Christopher and I, last year, I tried to convince Christopher to offer a class through Castleton, right? Because as an educator, we have to have a certain number of credit hours every year that go towards relicensing. So I think part of it is teachers don't have exposure to how dynamic filmmaking or multimedia could be within their classrooms. And if we could get more educators comfortable themselves using cameras and understanding what an incredible tool that is, whether it's creating, you know, stories or documentaries, that would be really powerful. So there's so many amazing resources right here on this screen right now. And just so you know, schools always have professional development money, and they're always looking for interesting ways to bring new people in to develop, you know, the practice of what their educators are doing. So I just think there's a ton of potential there to really, not just filmmaking classes are super important, but again, how do you embed it into an economics class? How do you embed it into like an honors lit class? How do you have like project-based learning happening in 5th and 6th grade that results in different types of multimedia expression?
I think in an ideal world, it would be really cool because just coming from the world of the 24 community media centers around the state, it would be really amazing if we had somebody that was like I need somebody to co-teach with me like a few weeks of the year or whatever, or somebody who has a curriculum, because the night before each day of my camp, I'm like, what should we do tomorrow? Oh gosh, I've got kids that already did this last year. Like, what are we going to do tomorrow? Let's find some links. So that would be amazing to have somebody who is like, that all of us together were collectively paying for, but was providing some curriculum, and then joint projects that we could do around the state. And just parentheses, I got the model for how to do our TV camp from the previous jam. So from CATV like 9 years ago, because Bob Franzoni was doing all these camps down there. So definitely we can share a lot. And we've been talking just as a network also with Vermont Public, who's interested in doing, perhaps, I don't know, it's like one of the ideas popped around, but some sort of civic educational training for young people as well, which I know at CCTV, we also have discussed with them in the past. So there's definitely lots of room for overlap, and always the schools the schools have so much on their plates that we also like being a place that's outside of the schools for a lot of this stuff, but working with them.
That's really great.
Oh, I was just going to say that it's super interesting that you brought that up, because we also have been kind of experimenting. We have this show called Common Ground that we meet with the local representatives and have roundtable discussions on topics. And we've been thinking about how can we turn this into some kind of curriculum and be able to use, because it's a pretty awesome show when you think about it, getting perspectives from state representatives on topics that are of hyper local importance, and how can we get that into classrooms, and as thinking about trying to find a social studies teacher who could help us create some kind of curriculum for it, so that we're on the same wavelength. And I think that could be a really awesome route to pursue. Yeah.
And I'm happy to help in any way I can. You can definitely get my contact information from Christopher.
Yeah, I think that just hearing this, that, starting with a listserv would be really smart, because, just like Angeliki said, even this summer, Taggart can attest to this, we were kind of hustling to do our project, and then you find out that a handful of the young people are interested in making horror films, and it's you reach out to people that oh, are there any filmmakers that and luckily we had a local filmmaker, him and his partner make Vermont horror films, so they came in and did some screenings, so it's just gathering resources and finding. I love also the opportunity if there's programs that young people don't know about, or opportunities for them to make money to, using their media skills. I wrote down a ton of that. So curriculum support, interdisciplinary approaches, getting in schools, residencies. Brick Arts in Brooklyn does this really well. They kind of have a long relationship with the New York City public school system, and they're a community media center that does some really amazing things. And when we started the Vermont Youth Documentary Lab, I had a couple kind of consulting days with them, and I learned a lot from them, as well as our folks here, Megan O'Rourke at Town Meeting TV, just handing you stuff materials that, oh, this is from 2010, and this is kind of how we did a summer program. That would be a really great thing to just share around, just kind of seeing what works, and this has been great. Does anyone want to just say anything before we part, and any questions or anything? Thanks, Greg.
I would just like to say that I really enjoyed this. I took so much from hearing from all you youth filmmakers, and I hope we have an opportunity to keep doing this, because I'm learning so much. So thank you.
Yeah, and thank you all as well from Goddard. I'm Greg, he, him. I'm the digital media coordinator over at Goddard College. I also work as a camera person and editor sometimes for Orca. I took a lot from this as well. It was very exciting to listen to this. It was very interesting to hearing. I think it was Rowan that was saying how they would like to use older cameras. And I think that sometimes the camera you use can really be an additive to the story. So you got cigarette burns or the fuzz that Christopher was talking about. I mean, that very much can be part of the message that you're trying to convey, or maybe using, a handheld camera opposed to a steadied camera could add maybe a frantic or frenetic kind of feeling to the film that you're making. It kind of got me thinking, what are the barriers that you all have experienced in trying to create media? Whether financial or just knowledge base, and what are the resources that you all might need to be able to better create youth media?
Yeah, for us, it's always money, you know, just like I said, I'd like to pay young people more. I'd like to create opportunities where, you know, like everyone has a fellowship, right? Especially during the summer. Finding money to pay, thanks, Tracy. Yeah, finding ways to connect and just pay people.
It was really nice to hear from all of you guys and to meet you. And I'm glad there are so many people doing great things in this state, because that's just wonderful.
Yeah, if anyone has to roll out at it's past 12 o'clock, I understand. Thank you, everyone. You know, thanks for coming, and we'll all keep in touch. If anyone else wants to weigh in, I think Greg posed a great question. Yeah, just like, what are the barriers? Is it just financial? Is it people?
I would also say transportation is a big barrier. And especially when like I start thinking about like accessibility, like in media and media making in particular, like Vermont's a pretty rural state. Like, I mean, I'm not from here either, but like Vermont's really rural, and like most people either need a car to, I mean, you kind of need a car to do what we're doing, especially when it's bringing a whole bunch of gear places. And I don't know, for some people that's definitely less of a challenge than others. And I definitely think I don't know, I definitely think when thinking about like community media making and like media making for like youth, like that's a huge element of it.
Yeah, definitely. We were doing a lot of walking, you know, even from the College of Fine Arts down to downtown Montpelier with all our gear, you know, just because you don't have a car to get everyone in, you know, that's a huge thing. And that's Montpelier, and that's a, you know, small, everyone's already in the city.
Well, it sounds like that listserv would be a really good idea to do, because, you know, carpooling could very much be part of that. And I'd be interested in getting in on that. We've been trying to create something for the artist and activist community at Goddard along those lines as well, so that we could share each other's resources and help support each other.
Great.
Greg, I just wanted to say I'm sorry. That somehow I got confused and didn't realize that that was a question. I apologize. Okay. I think there's a lot of barriers in Vermont for people who want to break into media, and I can't. I don't know. Not for me personally. I feel like, because there's so much equipment around me and whatnot, but it's just definitely really hard to live in a small area and get your work out there and feel like there's a large amount of people seeing your work when you live somewhere with, you know, like 200 people that you know or whatever.
I was just, can I say one thing about the barriers?
Yeah, please.
Just to flip that a little, like, it's funny because we're talking about like we're in a time where there's a lot of light, affordable equipment available, and like the editing. Okay, this is where I'm going to date myself. Like when we started video editing in the 90s, it was like our machine kept breaking down. We had to load in the footage low resolution first and then reload it at the end, high resolution. And now you can get like decent editing software for free or for nearly free. I mean, that's just amazing. And everyone has all the tools, but I think the education and the community are kind of lacking. People are isolated and they have all the tools, everything at their fingertips, but like, how do you make that, like, how do you tell your story? And you need people.
I think a harsh truth of the like media in general at this point in time is that there's an abundance. There's so much, and I think that's where the art really comes in. You have to like really speak to people if you want to get your message out. Yeah, I wish everyone would try it. I wish everyone would get a little camera and start messing around.
And I think I'll just like reiterate what Jordan said earlier. It's like, it's huge to look at media making as an opportunity to get together, you know, and respond to issues, respond to, you know, especially with young people, like responding to their perspective of the world and their communities. It's like, that's what it's about. Well, thanks everyone. Thanks so much. Thanks to Greg and Tony. Thank you.
Sorry, I got in late. Is this the thing that started at 11?
This was, yeah.
Started at, yeah, okay. Is there one following this or not until mine comes on at 1?
Not until yours comes on at 1, Glenn.
Okay.
We'll have a little bit of a break, but please, if any of you want to return, Glenn's will be at 1 o'clock, and then we'll have another at 2. But thanks again so much for your time, and thanks again, Christopher, for your organization and getting this together. I very much appreciate it, and it was a very interesting talk from all of you.
Thanks, Jordan, for sharing that link. That's awesome. Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.